Have you ever wondered what stops certain people from getting ahead? What is the thing that really is their major hurdle? Today, we are going to talk all about, but. We are really going to dissect that, and we have a great guest who's really going to help us really hit that and really uncover it. My name is Dr. Ruth Gotian, and welcome to the Mentor Project's Optimizing Your Success show, where every week we uncover what it is that high achievers do and how you can do it too. So welcome all of our panel guests, our high achieving crew this week, starting with the amazing Janice Lentz.
Hi, Ruth, and thank you for having me. And nice to see you, Mark. I'm Janice Lentz. I'm CEO of Hearing Access and Innovations. And my goal is to change the world for people with hearing loss. And I'm also traveling to every country in the world and have visited 194 countries, territories, and unrecognized nations.
Thanks, Janice. Dr. Bruce Y. Lee.
Hi, Ruth. Always great to be here. I am celebrating May 3rd is Lumpy Rug Day. So I have a lumpy rug behind me. There's also a hedgehog because hedgehogs are always appropriate in every occasion. I am a writer, journalist, professor, computer modeler, and fan of Dr. Ruth. And I'm talking about Dr. Ruth here.
I always have to ask. So I think I'm convinced Bruce has a calendar of what day it is because he always seems to bring it up. And one thing you should note is that we challenge Bruce at the end of every show. He writes for Forbes, and we challenge him to use a word in a future article, a word that came up in our show. So if you think of anything, put it in the chat, and we will let Bruce know at the end of the show. Susie Katz.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm always happy to be here. I'm a photographer, but I spend most of my time with my educational nonprofit Photo Wings. We help utilize photography to help people, teach them how to think. And I'm thrilled to be here.
Thank you. And everyone knows that Susie has the most amazing photos I have ever seen. Our favorite Jamaican bobsledder, Devin Harris.
Indeed, Ruth. Always great to be able to hang out with you and your amazing guests. Yes, I'm by day a three-time Olympian, original member of the Jamaican bobsled team. And when I'm not doing that, I spend my time speaking and sharing with and challenging audiences to keep on pushing and live their absolute best lives.
Thank you. And Devin is on location tonight, and we are so happy that he still called in for our Zoom. Now, our special guest, Mark, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, and then I'm going to tell everyone how we met and why I asked you to come on today's show.
So I'm Mark Wolf, and I'm founder and chief thought provoker at Mark A. Wolf Enterprises. I like to challenge people. I'm professionally curious. And I wonder how improvement on people's lives would look on them, since they're just an arm's length away from actually achieving that. When you finally spend some time thinking and being challenged by someone who's not afraid to actually ask you tough questions, then that's where we see the vision come together in reality.
I love it. Now, Mark, we met a few months ago. We were both in a workshop by our mutual friend, Isay Bursell, who's going to be our guest next week, I think. And in one of the breakout rooms, Mark and I were together with a few other people, and we had our little task to do. And then we reported out what we thought of it. And then Mark asked me some questions. I don't even remember what the questions were, but I've been doing this coaching thing for a very long time. And I usually have the eagle eye for people who are really seasoned coaches and know the right questions to ask, the right buttons to push. And you asked me some questions that stumped me. That doesn't often happen. And I said, whoa, this guy knows what he's doing. I need to up my game here. And it really got me thinking. Your comments and your questions really got me thinking, which is really the most intellectual part of really, really good coaching. It gets you to think and gets you to reflect on things long after the session is over. So I reached out to Mark. We continued our conversation, and he was telling me about some of the things that he's doing about where people get stuck, their yeah, but moments. Mark, why don't you tell us a little bit about that? And guys, all of you who are watching, let us know if you have questions. Let us know where you're from. Let us know if you have questions. We're going to answer all of that. Mark, take it away.
Yeah. So, yeah, but so I was a consultant really early on in my career, started my first business. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. So at 16 years old, I was a freelance photographer, and I was taking pictures of presidents and supermodels, and I was taking pictures of the New York Giants as an intern. And I was just doing things because there was opportunities, and someone asked me and said, "Hey, can you do this?" And I said, "Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to." And I kind of grew up always thinking, well, if somebody needs to do it, why can't it be me? So I look at this as an opportunity, Ruth, is just what can we do if you really think about looking at it from a different angle? And, I'm originally from New Jersey. That says a lot to people that know what New Jersey's about. I'm not afraid to challenge, but then I moved to Nashville, Tennessee. And through that transition, I realized that there was a softer way to actually challenge people and come up with conversations that really make people think differently. And during my time actually in Tennessee, been here since 2009, I was thinking about, yeah, but. And I was thinking, how many times have I heard from my friends, clients, other people, yeah, but I'm too old to do that, or yeah, but I'm scared, or yeah, but I don't even know where to start. And hearing that again and again, I was like, ooh, I've got my own yeah buts. Sometimes my yeah buts get in the way. And I was like, I should really write a book about this. This would be interesting. So that's where it started.
I love that yeah but, because a lot of people who watch the show know that I was older when I went back to school, and it was something I kept putting off until I realized in 5 years I'm going to be 5 years older, with or without the degree. Might as well put that yeah but, right? And all of those excuses that I gave myself, might as well put it aside, and instead of talking about one day, talk about day one. Right. So that's what I did. So tell me about some of the yeah buts that you've heard through your work, and what are some of the things that we can do when we have those yeah but moments in our own life?
So my whole premise of yeah but, I mean, there's nothing new under the sun. We've all heard about stories about overcoming and doing things. The difference is that I've lived through some of these, and I have some stories from other people, including clients and other people who wanted to share their stories. So some of the yeah buts that I hear are, yeah, but I have no time. And if the pandemic taught us anything at all, it wasn't time that was slowing us down from doing things, because we had more time to do more things in more ways that remove so many of the excuses. So one of my chapters is, yeah, but I have no time. And I give some statistics about how time is really not the enemy. It's really desire. And the pandemic showed us that you had time to do something, and if you still didn't do it, and you realized, you know what, maybe I'm just not going to do this. Maybe I'm not going to write this book. Maybe I'm not going to go and start that degree. Maybe I'm not really cut out for what my job or role is right now. And that's the thing. It's like, if you're only talking in your own head about something, the yeah buts always win, because no one really asks you, well, what are you going to do with what you have, with where you're at?
So what do we do when the yeah but comes and we get stuck? We can't move forward because we say, if only we had more time. But clearly we had the pandemic, and we still didn't do all of our filing that we said we're going to do. We have not cleaned out our closets. Well, of course Janice did, and it's probably on an Excel spreadsheet. But for the rest of us who didn't, and we always found these excuses of all these things that we were going to do, what are we supposed to do about it? I mean, Janice made the most of the pandemic more than anyone else I know, and she'll get to that in a moment. But for the rest of us mere mortals, what are we supposed to do?
It's one of the interesting things about excuses is that if you tell them to yourself, if somebody came up to you and told you the lies you tell yourself, you would call them out immediately. But the lies we tell ourselves, like, oh, it'll just be a moment, or it won't be that long, or I'll get this done if I have time. And maybe Janice is a great example of things she got done, but there's certain things every one of us chose not to do, even though we had the time to do it. So how do you overcome that? It's prioritization. One of the biggest, most important things is recognizing what you're really, really not going to do. Because if the juice isn't worth the squeeze and the outcome at the end is not worth it, then maybe you shouldn't be doing it. Or maybe you like it better if the climb isn't worth the view. I like that one. That one better. I'm trying to be politically correct, but juice worth the squeeze. We're just talking about oranges here, okay? So it's one of the things is that you really have to look at it and say, okay, if I accomplish this, what happens? But if I don't, what happens if I don't? Who am I robbing of the book I'm supposed to write with things that I realize may not be about me, but it's about helping someone else? Or even Ruth, when you and I were having that conversation, that question that I asked you about summarizing something down to just one word, made it memorable. And it wasn't about me. It was just about asking you something that made you think and go, well, how can I get it to one word? And you did. And that's the beauty of what's that about. So I try to make things simple, but simpler, but not simple, right? So think about it
simple,
this way.
but profound.
Right. But you have to have ears to hear. You got to be ready to listen. One of the things is about time is about, if you're not ready to do what you say you're going to do, you will always have alibis, as I call them. It's beyond excuses. I actually use the word alibis. You will have alibis not to start something, continue it, or finish it.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. So tell me a little bit more about these alibis.
So an alibi is something that you go and, like a court case, you're trying to plead your case to yourself. Now remember, you pitch this to all the people around you. They're like, oh, I would do this. I would go to the gym, but you know what? It's just, with the pandemic, and I'm afraid with the masks or not masks or everything. I was like, oh, well, people are doing stuff in their homes now, so you don't have to go to the gym. Oh, okay. They have that mirror where you can go and actually do this thing, or you can buy a Peloton. You're like, oh. So when you remove the excuses, what people realize is that was just another alibi that you were trying to sell, that you were trying to find yourself not guilty of doing something. But the point is that how do you overcome this? Try to be real with yourself to the point where you're really thinking, well, if I could do this, what would change? Here's a statistic that we use in the book is about health. And one of the things is about many people that have had major health crises in their life change their diet after. But it takes a major health crisis to do that. But if you look at really the stats, even people who have had a heart attack, fewer than you would believe actually do change their diet. Because even though they've done this, you would expect it to be, like 90% of people would be able to do it. Some people be like, well, I'm not really going to do that. And we're doing more research to find out exactly what that stat is, what really drives that. We're going to interview some people about what that looks like and what would that change. And do you really believe that this change is actually going to extend your life? And do you believe, and it's about beliefs. And that's why this is a complex problem. But it really has a simple solution because it starts in your mind. And I'm not a neuroscientist, or just, I'm just a guy who has lived through business and actually helps executives of Fortune 500 companies. Just a regular guy. And I bring other people around me to be able to help support with research and other information to be able to support the ideas.
Well, Mark, I think that's great. And I think one of the people who's really overcome this but moment is one of our high achieving crew, Devin Harris, who should never have made it to the Winter Olympics, but yet he made it not once, not twice, but 3 times, and started a revolution over it, because now his home country of Jamaica not only has a men's bobsledding team, there's also a women's bobsledding team. Devin, can you take us back to that and all the but moments that you had and everyone around you had, and how you overcame that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Mark mentioned that he's just a regular guy. And I think that is true for all of us, right? We are just regular guys and regular girls who figure a way to get past our yearbook moments. Because without that, then you sit there and you do nothing. I kind of feel it begins with this desire, first of all, to do something, to be something, to have something. Not necessarily to be different, but just to look at your life and go, what is it that I could possibly accomplish? Oh, I want to do this thing. So if I could go back before bobsledding, because I think sometimes when you are able to look back on your life, you go, oh, you see how these dots connect. And, so growing up in the middle of Olympic Gardens, I know it sounds like this really cool place where we raise all our Olympians in Jamaica. It's actually the hood, right? One of the toughest ghettos in the world. And it was kind of surrounded by that environment where there were, I never expressed it in those terms, Mark, lots of yearbook moments for many people, right? It's like, yeah, but I'm a kid from the hood. When I wanted to join the army as an officer, I was told, but you're from the ghetto, it can't happen. And so the question that we have to ask ourselves and ask others when they tell us yearbook is, why not? And so
why not you, right? Yeah, why not
exactly. You? And so so I was able to, overcome that situation and make it into the officer corps, and there got introduced to this crazy idea of bobsledding. And to be honest, my initial response, like knee-jerk response, is like, that's the worst idea ever conceived by man. Nobody could ever get me to go on one of those things, right? And then the colonel suggested that I tried out. And to be honest, I had to go to the team trials because he told me to, but I didn't have to make the team. I could have gone and pretended that I tried hard, but why not? And so I just went, and it was difficult. It was most of the testing was for speed and explosive power. Yeah, I'm Jamaican, but I don't consider myself a fast sprinter. I was a middle distance runner. All right, so I could have go, well, this is for sprinters, so I'm at the team trials, but yeah, but no, why not me? And so I just went and I tried my darnest, and they liked my smile. And then next thing you know, I'm competing in 3 Winter Olympic Games, But yeah, you have to get past the yearbook moments, and the thing that drives that, I think, is the desire to want something.
Absolutely. And I think that's what helped you really get to the Olympics and do so well there, right? Because you also could have just arrived at the Olympics and just gone through the motions, but you decided if we're here, we might as well do the best we can.
Well, if I'm going to the team trials, why not make the team? Right? And if I'm going to the Olympics, why not try hard? I mean, I just don't even see the point of turning up just to be there, right? And I don't know that I looked at it in terms of, hey, I need to make a mark. I just think that you have to do everything in your power to get the best result possible, right? That's how you become proud of yourself. And then when you meet other yearbook moments, you go, well, why not me? And you have that strength. You've built up that why not me muscle that overpowers those yearbook moments.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
That.
Say it again.
I just thought of that. I should write it down.
I'm using your keynote, Devin. Hey, Devin, I got a question for you.
Sure.
Now, you were never thinking about being on a Jamaican bobsled team. You thought it was a crazy idea when it was presented to you. So what do you think about the idea that it can't come from your own brain sometimes? Someone has to challenge you externally.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I was on, really great question, never been asked that before. I was on the Olympic path in the sense that, it was 1987, the Olympics were coming up in Seoul, Korea. So I was thinking about wanting to compete in the Olympics.
The Summer Olympics.
The Summer Olympics, yeah, right? So I actually overachieved by making it to the Winter Olympics a few months earlier. But you're right, though. None of us are smart enough to have all the answers, I think, and all the ideas. And so I think we have to be open to opportunities when they arrive, and recognize that I always say opportunity is not something that turns up in a nice wrapped box with a bow and you untie it. It's like, hey, time to roll up your sleeves, and you go. So you sit and you go, it's a possibility. Why not? And since somebody's going to do it anyway, why not you? Right? And so that's kind of how I approach this. Go back to the desire. For many years, had a desire to represent my country at the Olympic Games. Why not bobsledding? So it worked out.
So one of the other excuses that I have in my book is, but what are other people going to think? When you first came up with this idea, wanting to be in the Olympics and the summer, you already, I presume, knew that you were like, well, I'm better suited for the Summer Olympics. I'm Jamaican. I'm probably going to have something that's going to do with at least summer. And when you had this, when you heard about it being the Winter Olympics, even the first idea, and then bobsledding, how concerned were you about what other people were going to think about you?
Didn't care, actually. I was more concerned about I was going to stay alive. The first
in
time
a speed suit.
In my speed suit, right? But, the first time I saw a bobsled track, I just remember looking at the corner and where it meets straight away and seeing this narrow space and going, how the hell are we going to get through that? But then my next thought was, well, others have done it, so I guess we'll figure it out,
It was on-the-job training for Devin.
It really was on-the-job training.
Yeah, it's Devin. It's one of the chapters also is but it's dangerous, right? So these are all the things that are in people's heads. It's like, you're already doing things that are already dangerous. If you knew about the food you ate, any of us eat, right? And then you look at the restaurant ratings for health, you're like, oh, no wonder I got sick. They have an 80
don't get
out
Bruce
of 100.
started.
So Mark, I in my book I write about taking risks, because I tell people all the time they think I'm joking because I kid around like Bruce Wiley all the time, but I'm scared of speed and height, and I'm a 3-time Olympic bobsledder though. So my argument is, if you're going to do something, you need to do something. There's always risk involved. You have to determine whether or not the risk is something you can live with, right? So you're going to invest in this business and you're going to mortgage your house. If you lose everything, can you live with it? And if you can live with it in your mind, do it, right? So when I crawled in a sled behind a guy for the very first time, he had never driven one before, I just said, if I die, I die. So I was willing to, quote unquote, live with it. I did not die. Because most of the times the thing that you fear the most never happened anyway. So you figure a way to go through.
Now, if there was someone who really could have given up her hands and said, that's it, I just can't do it. She had all the buts in the world because it was hurdle after hurdle after hurdle after hurdle after hurdle for decades. That's Janice Lentz. But yet she did it. So Janice, tell us your but story and how you overcame it.
I actually didn't have any time where I said I couldn't do it. I think it's because I had nothing to lose. So when they diagnosed my daughter with a hearing loss and they said there were special schools for her, I was unwilling to live the life they decided I was going to live. And I decided I was going to change the world for her. But I didn't have the but because I didn't want to live the life that someone else predetermined for me. So if my life was already, let's say, down here, and I wanted it here, like it was already at the bottom. I had already hit bottom. So I didn't have the but I will say I did have it when we haven't talked about it on this show, but I applied to Harvard's Kennedy School. and I was accepted. And
hey, Janice, this is the first time that we're saying this here.
yeah, I haven't, well, because I received my deferral for a year because of the pandemic, so I'm pretty psyched. But when I applied, I didn't tell, only I think Debbie, Ruth, and Hara, who reviewed my essay, knew about it. I didn't want to tell anyone because I was so afraid of not being accepted. I didn't want people to think I was stupid. So I just didn't tell anybody. And so I just didn't tell anyone. But I didn't have the same thing of, should I do it? I think I had been listening to Ruth so many times discuss how she went back to school and listening to that over and over. And this was one of the first years where they had eliminated the GREs. And I decided I always wanted to go to Harvard, but I didn't. The thought of first taking the math class to take the GRE and then taking the GRE prep class was a bit much. And I didn't think I had the stamina to do that. So I thought this was my golden opportunity year to get in if I didn't have to take it.
And you got in.
I got in, but I thought I had nothing to, like, similar to like what Devin was saying. I had nothing to lose. I thought, okay, I'll just go. And plus I haven't told anybody, so nobody will know. It'll just be 3 people who know that I applied. Oh, plus my daughter, but nobody will know. So I heard this, all the voices, but I just thought I have nothing to lose. But for me, it was interesting was I didn't apply to any other schools. It was going to be Harvard or nothing.
And you got in.
And I got in because, and even my daughter said, don't you want to have a backup school? I said, nope, I can't get into Harvard, I'm not going to any other school. It's Harvard only.
Harvard or bust.
Harvard or bust. And so I had to defer for a year because of the pandemic, but I am going to go next year. And for me, it was really a dream come true. But it was this kind of thing like, but I do have all the buts now of, oh my God, how am I going to do this? Like, it sounds like such a great idea. And then you're like, okay, like I'm old. I don't have my parents' apartment home anymore where I can leave my stuff, right? Like when you go to school, when you're going to college, you just you leave your stuff at home and you come back. I literally have to move all my stuff to Boston. And then I'm technically homeless. So like when I finish, I have no home anymore. Like, where am I going? And I'm like, I have no idea. Like, I will be homeless. So like, I have all
Janice.
What?
The White House, Janice.
Yes. So I have the year butts now.
You know what I see with you though, Janice, is with all of your work with hearing access, you may not have the buts, but all the agencies that you work with where you're trying to get hearing access have a ton of buts. And you throw it in their face. I mean, just your Facebook post from an hour ago. Really, I was like, oh boy.
Oh,
right?
Because you have no idea.
Because I think you really take it and people come up with the excuses and you say, wait a minute. No, that is no longer a valid excuse. And here's why. You take their but and you turn it on its head, right? You're the one who goes against it. So kudos to you. I think that's how you got the access you did and all the places that you did and the taxis and the theaters and the national parks. And you just weren't going to let other people's buts hold you back.
Yes. And I will say the post that I posted was because in the new Moynihan station in New York City, they forgot hearing access. They just forgot about it. And they knew about it because I had reminded them to do it. And I did a Freedom of Information Act and found that they had been told to do it and they just ignored it. And they denied that they had been told, or they just ignored me. And until I sent them the Freedom of Information Act that I found, the information from the architect. And I'm like, well, here it is. And they had to implement it. But I regularly turn it. And but over and over, I had 4 meetings today. In all 4 meetings, they had a but. And I won't take buts from anyone.
So
that's why I'm glad Janice is my friend.
And Janice, it's a great lesson. So even if we don't have our own buts, like Ruth said, we have to deal with other people's yeah buts, which is limiting beliefs that they impress upon us. See, people project their yeah buts on us. So, yeah, but what are you going to do when you're going to move to Boston? And so people start projecting and asking questions, not actually to help you. Some people, and I'm just talking to everyone, is that some people will just talk about things because they couldn't do it. So they try to limit you or us by throwing things at us and going, yeah, but what's going to happen with your family and moving? And yeah, but what about the expense? Or yeah, but, and they throw things at you. And it wasn't even something you were concerned about. And it wasn't to help you. It was just barriers that people inadvertently, most of the time, put up as limiting beliefs. So that's why when you think about things, it's why people don't start, continue, or finish things. Because at any point in your journey, when other people throw a yeah, but at you, it could stop you if you're not so determined and you know what the purpose is and you know why you're doing it and you know what your non-negotiables are, that you're like, I won't go to this point or I will go beyond it to be able to accomplish what I want to do.
I like that. I like that. I like that a lot. Susie.
Hi. So what you're talking about is what I've been calling for years the terrible whats. What now? What if? Now what? And when I've come at different transition points in my life, I tend to make a lot of lists and put all those the positives and the negatives and things I need to learn more about. And I talk to a whole lot of people to find out, to fill in those blanks. Is what would happen if this? What would happen if that? And then sometimes you just take a dive off the deep end. When I first decided where I was trying to decide where I was going to live, I traveled for 14,000 miles across the country, stopping at each place that I thought I might have been interested in and talk with different people. You know, what's it like here? What would you do differently? When I decided to become a photographer, everybody I could find that was a photographer. Mark, if I had known you, I would have asked you at the same time, what would you do differently? What are the best parts? How could you, what different path might you have gone to? And then at another point in my life, I sought some therapy, which I thought was really, really helpful. I call it a mental tune-up. And the thing that came out of it was awareness that I could do this and I could also do that, so that it's worth giving it a shot and then really figuring out what are the possibilities that I might not have considered, and then just kind of recalibrate along the way and stay up to date on whatever is going on so that you can make sure you're on the right path. And also to surround yourself with really nourishing people that think differently than you, different disciplines, different cultures. And so that you're not just listening to the same, you're not listening in the same silo. And then just take chances and go with your vision with confidence.
I love it. Mark, what do you think about that?
Yeah, the first thing I think about is, you know, I had a yeah, but Susie originally in photography, and obviously you've been successful with it, is that when I was growing up in New Jersey, New York City was right across, the river. And I mean, 2-hour commute and, $40 for parking. But nonetheless, still, it was just right across the river. And I wanted to become a freelance photographer. And my yeah, but was, first of all, you'd have to work for free. And it would cost you because, as a young photographer, it was going to be this internship or this, gopher to be able to do it. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to do that. And I started my own business and started working with Macintoshes, and then worked on, became an Apple reseller and grew a business because I didn't do it. Obviously, how do you overcome when you knew early about photography? Did you have any yeah buts that you had to overcome to say, how is this going to work out for me?
Yeah, well, you have to figure it out. You have to figure out routes. I think the biggest part was surrounding myself again with nourishing people. When I sort of hung out my shingle, within a week, I had an assignment. Just people would tell somebody, I know this photographer, and then you go that route, and then you have something that you've got in your portfolio that you can do. But the most important thing, I think, is to figure out where you're going. I realized that with seeing the studio photographers, they had light cameras and light cases stacked up to the ceiling. And I thought, I do not want to be schlepping all that stuff with me. So that, cut that out. And I had an early experience with photojournalism where I saw someone hit by a car, a young child. And I had cameras around me, and I thought somebody else can go help that, can go take pictures if they want. I'm going to go for help. So I didn't want to do that. But full circle, I'm helping photojournalists now. So I think some of the worst advice is to go the way that other people tell you and to really reach down deep in your heart and know what's right for you. And then you can continue going in that direction and building on that rather than just depending on other people saying that you can't do that. And photography, you really have to stay up to date, like in every career, in medicine and everyone on this call. You have to really stay contemporary because otherwise you'll get left behind. I think that's the other part of it, and work on your skills as well and your self-confidence.
Yeah, I remember a long time ago when Photoshop was RGB only and Letraset was a competitor and it was on floppy disk and people thought this is never going to be a thing. I mean, it's not a big deal. And then it changed the industry. And I remember with Photo District News and they were talking about stock photographers and how people that were traditional photographers hated stock photography, and now it's become a crazy industry. So you're right, Susie. It's people have to become the buts overcoming. Well, what happens when the industry changes? Are these people on film versus digital? Film's always going to be around. Don't kill my Kodachrome. So it's it's definitely, no matter what industry, you're not exempt.
I think you really have to look toward the future and figure out where is photography going to be down the road and how can you make a living at it. And so many people now can't make a living at it. Most professionals are really making their living teaching other people how to photograph, that you may have to use some of your other skills and do what I call the work you do for love and the work you do for money. And so that you can continue following your passion, but it may not be the biggest moneymaker in an era where it's very difficult to monetize.
Yes.
You have to stay several steps ahead.
Well, I love, Susie, what you said and how that really goes back to what Mark said to Janice. Even if you don't have your own buts, there are other people with their fears and insecurities and worries push their buts on you. And that sort of raises these concerns that you didn't know that you even had, that now you need to deal with in your cognitive load with everything else that you're dealing with. So it's your own buts, but it's also other people's buts that they push on you, and they may not realize the unintended consequences that has on you. So that was a very interesting perspective, Mark. Thank you. Bruce, if we can tear you away from your, what month is it? Bumpy carpets or something?
Lumpy Carpet Day.
Lumpy Carpet Day. Bruce, you've essentially had a professional life where you are constantly going against the grain, constantly, and probably pissing off people right and left in the process. But yet you are staying true to yourself. And I'm curious about the buts that you had along the way and how you overcame some of them.
Yeah, well, I want to say that I'm floored by this conversation, and that life has its lumps, but
oh, Bruce.
But yeah, let me cover what happened. So,
oh my God.
Yeah, basically, I started off.
Don't quit your day job, Bruce.
I was about to ask, are you a writer, Bruce?
So I.
He's a physician, I swear.
Yeah, I started. It's interesting because I think there is a twisted concept of risk. People think about things as being risky in one direction, but there's actually, they always say you always have risk, and the biggest risk is not doing something. And so when I was in medical school, I actually started venturing out into the business world, trying different things. And I remember it was very counter to what a lot of people were doing. And I got a lot of people saying, oh, you don't do stuff like that. You don't try stuff like that. Oh, you'll never be able to do this. You'll never be able to come back. You'll never be able to do whatever. And I actually got to a point where, I went off into the business world. I worked for an investment bank, and I worked for a consulting firm, then I did a startup. And my path just got so far away from just basically anyone else's path that there's no more risk anymore, because I was just so far off the path that whatever traditional career path was previously available was no longer available anymore. But it made me realize that, well, actually, when you take away those constraints, it's actually quite freeing, because you don't have any more expectations anymore. A neurology resident once told me that life equals, or happiness equals reality minus expectations, or maybe it was expectations minus reality. I can't remember, some kind of formula like that. But basically, the lower your expectations, the more happy you are to try different things, because you're not really expecting anything. You're saying, okay, let's see what might happen here, and go with it. And then I remember another friend quoted a famous philosopher to me. I'm trying to remember his name. I think it was Mike Tyson. And he once said something like, everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the face, or something like that. And I think that's actually a great quote, because
Wait, what did he say?
He said, everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face. So it basically means that, you come up with these plans all the time. And I used to do that. I used to come up with all these like grand plans, like 3-year, 5-year, 10-year plans, like I'm some type of like government institution. I'm planning for 10 years. And they would always fall through. Like they'd invariably just kind of collapse. And I felt like one of those GPS systems where I kept on saying, okay, recalculating, and come up with a new plan. And then finally I just gave up, because I said, I can't predict the future. But the one thing I can predict is like what's going to happen today. And also like what I'm actually doing immediately. And am I happy doing this? Okay, if I'm not happy, or if there's something else that I would rather be doing along with this, just do it and then see what happens. So I think that really changed my perception of risk. Because it's definitely true. The thing you regret the things that you didn't try or didn't do.
I agree with you, Bruce. I have to say that I love that with the GPS, but that is exactly how I've been living. I used to plan every minute of my entire life, and
I'm shocked to hear that, Janice.
Yeah,
I'm shocked to hear that.
And I realized you just can't. Like everything I planned just didn't work out, and I just said I give up. And if I just stop planning, I can't be disappointed, and I'll just go with the flow. I really have like no idea what I'm doing, from like, even committing to a lease now for more than a year is a big commitment for me.
So there's a great point. So let's just think about what you said, between Bruce and Janice here. People that love to have a plan, one of the chapters is, but what's the plan? And sometimes the plan is there is no plan, which is crazy for people who love a plan, because if you try to plan, what happened with the pandemic? Man, it's funny in 2018 to say, where do you think you'd be in 2 years, right? No one said, I think I'll be home.
How about 2020?
Yeah, it's just, there's the benefit of thinking about this differently, and the buts are really thinking about doing things differently than you've done them before. That's the whole concept. Every one of these is an excuse. So as Bruce was talking about and saying, there's risk in not taking risks ultimately, that if you don't challenge yourself to do something new, you already have challenged yourself to do something old by not growing and doing something new. And people that don't like change, too bad. The world changes around you, so you have to change. But these are realities that if it's only you having in your own head and talking, then, even Susie was talking about just the mechanics of having someone to talk to, and maybe therapy or counseling or a coach. They all serve different purposes at different times in your life. But talking to only people who will support you and be your cheerleader, that's great. But there's not growth that comes out of everything you do is awesome. Sometimes somebody has to go and say, hey, I care about you enough to go and say, tell me, just explain to me what you think that'll be, how that turns out. They don't tell you no. They just help you verbalize it in a way where you don't normally get that. So you can hear your own words and go, well, now that I said it out loud, it actually doesn't sound as great an idea. And I don't know how I'm going to do it. But sometimes the yeah, but is I'm going to do it anyway. But that's good that at least you knew what the consequences were and you still said, yeah, but I'm still going to move ahead.
I like that, Mark. And, my mantra for the 2020-2021 year, which was very tough for me as it was for everyone. And we all had our different reasons for it being extra tough. But through that, my mantra was, why not me? Why not me? Mm-hmm. Why do the opportunities go to everyone else? Why not me? And when you have that shift in your mindset, you start to act in a certain way where the opportunities present themselves, right? Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, the luck that you had, it's not luck. It's years and years of preparing for that luck and vocalizing and asking for what it is that you want. So writing for Forbes for me came out because I wrote an article with, well, let's start even before the Forbes. I reached out to two people who are leaders in my field. I said, it's a pandemic, everyone's home. I'll reach out. I'll say, I have an idea for an article. Do you want to write it together? What's the worst they'll say? The worst they'll say is no. If it wasn't a pandemic, I never would have reached out to them because I'm here and they're in a different universe, right? But we were all in quarantine. So I reached out to them and they said, sure. And in a week, we finished the article and we sent it out. And they said to me, what's next? And I was not ready for that question. And then I said, well, I really want to write for Forbes. And they said, oh, we know someone there who's a senior contributor. And they introduced me to her, who introduced me to the editor, who got me that door open where I can go through the interview process and submit the writing samples and all of that. But that would not have happened if I didn't say, why not me? I don't know that a year ago I would have done that. Well, certainly not 5 years ago.
Congratulations for that mindset, right? Because mindsets change behaviors. Yeah. And once that behavior is, a lot of things come together. So just think, you always had that same ability. Isn't that ironic, right? You still were the same writer with the same ability to do the same thing. So here's the thing. It's the opportunity, right? What I say often to people is that not because I can't do it, it's because I haven't had the opportunity to do it, right? My first keynote speech, it wasn't because I couldn't. It was because somebody saw me and said, you talk and you're pretty clear in your communication and pretty compelling. Why are you not doing keynotes? And I was like, well, I don't know, just because I haven't had a chance. So do you want to do one? And then when they told me how much they were going to pay, I was like, heck yes, I will do one. Right? But it's the thing is that it's that opportunity. But once you start to do that, it gets infectious in a good way where you're like, well, what else am I not doing that I did not step up to offer that I could do? And other people are already looking, waiting for you to be there because they already believed in you before you believed in you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I believe people want to help. You just need to tell them what you want.
They need clarity on how to help you because telling them, well, I'm open for ideas. People don't want to work that hard to help you unless you tell them, hey, if you can introduce me to this one person, they're like, oh, well, if you just need that, that's it. So my challenge to each one of us, no matter how great we are in our field, is that we're still undervaluing ourselves. There's still self-talk. There's still imposter syndrome. There's still what we have yet to accomplish. I'm so confident, but at my age, confidence and arrogance is a fine line, and I don't see fine lines so well. So my confidence is what drives me forward. My dad, who is 5'2", 4-pack a day, blue collar guy, said, "You know what, Mark? Be confident and act like you belong." And there's a big difference between fake it till you make it and act like you belong, because when you're there and you're present, people actually are happy you're there.
That's how Devin survived at the Olympics wearing a speed suit.
A speed suit. We all did.
He corrected me that it's not a unitard.
I don't know what that is. No, but the mindset piece is really important because I think I say you have to ignore the realities, so to speak. So in bobsledding, for example, your second run is always slower than your first run because the ice is just not as fresh in a race. But I know that in the second run, there are teams that are going to be going faster than I am going anyway. So my mindset was always that I want to go faster in my second run than my first run, because somebody else is going to be going faster. So why not me? And so the mindset of, hey, I don't care what the obstacles are. There are opportunities that I can take advantage of, should take advantage of, I think allows you to get past that. Well, it's difficult, you go, yeah, but, I'm going to go do it myself.
Love it. Guys, Mark, I want a final word before everyone shares how we can reach out and hear more about your work. Mark, give us some final thoughts.
I believe so passionately that people undervalue themselves. And if you do undervalue yourself, you know what you have an opportunity to? Undervalue others that you're surrounded with. It's not intentional, but when you do that and you actually go and forget how you were made for a purpose to do something that is bigger than what you're currently doing now, and success metrics, really, how are you defining success in your own life? And that's the thing that I think once you get outside support and somebody starts to challenge you, but in a way where they challenge you to really think differently than you ever thought, you actually can accomplish more than you ever could. I just don't think that's easy to do by yourself. Self-accountability is difficult. And sometimes even companies bring in outside people to show them even what inside people tell. Sometimes you just need to see that outside voice and hear it to be challenged. I just love doing it. It's my passion. It's my purpose. It's what I'm put on earth. And Ruth had it just in a casual conversation we had and saw that this is who I am. And I love when I know what I'm supposed to do, that I just own it. And then people feel that same way.
And you're good at it. And from someone who studies success, I can tell you that success is a moving target.
Thank you.
So you have to keep redefining your idea of what success is and how you're going to get it and maintain it. Guys, thank you so much. This has been a wonderful discussion about our yeah buts and other people's yeah buts and how that impacts us. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will be here again next week. For those of you who are listening on the podcast, which we take the audio from this and we turn it into a podcast, please subscribe and leave us a rating and review if you would. We read all of them. Everyone here is a volunteer, volunteering their time, volunteering their expertise, and you have the most incredible high achievers, and they're all here giving of their time and their expertise. So please subscribe, leave us a rating and review. We will see you next week, but all the high achievers are first going to say where you can find out more about them and all the incredible things that they're doing and how they don't listen to yeah buts. Janice, where can people find you?
You can find me. Thank you so much. This was really very insightful.
Janice, we can't hear you. So you fix that. I'm going to go back to you. Dr. Bruce Wiley.
So I guess the key here is to be rugged, right?
Oh, you too. We can't hear you either.
We can, Ruth. We can hear them.
We're hearing him.
We are hearing them, Ruth.
Okay. Yes. So you can reach me if you Google Bruce.
No, Bruce, we cannot hear you.
Oh, okay.
Susie, how about you? We're going to keep trying.
You can find me at photowings.org, photowings.org. And I've done a 1 hour with a mentor on the Mentor Project. You can find me there.
Susie, you're not clear either. I have a feeling that it is an issue with the StreamYard. Devin, let's try you.
Yeah, for sure. Can you hear me, Ruth?
Nope.
I think we are hearing, but you're
Yes,
not
we
hearing
are.
for some reason. Yeah.
I can hear everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Oh, she's gone.
Please go.
So shall we take over?
So
We'll
yeah,
take
go
over.
ahead,
That's
Devin.
it.
You're in charge, Devin.
Bye,
Go.
Ruth.
Yeah. So Janice, you first. Tell us how we can find you.
I can be found at janicelintz.com and hearingaccess.com, and then, of course, LinkedIn. Thank you, Devin.
Indeed. And the rugged Bruce Wiley, how can we find you?
Thank you, Devin, for covering us here. So you can Google Bruce Y. Lee or Bruce Y. Lee Forbes if you want to read my writing. Also bruceyley.com. And on social, it's at Bruce_Y_Lee.
Indeed, indeed. And make sure you add the Y, because apparently there's another guy out there who calls himself Bruce Lee as well. So
yeah, that's the rumor.
Yeah, Susie Katz.
You can find me at photowings.org, photowings.org. And I've done a 1 hour with a mentor presentation on the Mentor Project. And you can look at a little bit of my own work at susankatzphotography.com.
Indeed. Thank you so much for that. Of course, I'm Devon Harris. You can find me at devonharris.com. Thought I'd make it easy for you. Instagram and Twitter, I'm at keeponpushing88. You can find me on Facebook. I'm in the bobsled suit, not a unitard, or on LinkedIn as well. So we get to cover for Dr. Ruth Gotian, and I think she is at ruthgotian.com. Thank you for tuning in to the show this evening, Mentor Project. Make sure you check us out and come back next week. Bring a friend. Stay well.